Hello, everyone.
จะล่วงแล้วโอเคไปแล้วล่วงแล้วนี่ทั้งตึกเลยแต่เอ้ย
The high-rise building shook. Then it collapsed. In less than 8 seconds, nearly 20 concrete floors turned into rubble. The survivors couldn't scream. All they could do was listen to each other breathe. At exactly 12:50 p.m. on March 28, 2025, a massive 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck central Myanmar, near the border between the Sagaing and Mandalay regions. The quake lasted less than 30 seconds, but its destructive power spread farther than anyone imagined. It wasn't just a tremor, it was a blow that crossed borders. Myanmar, Thailand, India, and China all felt it. Mandalay was hit first. Ancient temples crumbled, roads cracked wide open, homes flattened. More than 5,000 people died in the first few minutes. But the devastation didn't stop at the border. Around 1,200 kilometers from the epicenter, Thailand's capital Bangkok shook violently. On the 23rd floor of a high-rise under construction belonging to the Thai State Audit Office, dozens of workers were mixing concrete when the ground beneath them swayed. No one had time to reach the elevator. The building tilted silently, then snapped. When rescue teams arrived at the scene in Bangkok, they found the first body within 15 minutes. A man, arms still clinging to a steel beam, as if trying to hold the roof from collapsing. What followed was a nerve-wracking 3-day rescue mission in the midst of dust and tears. Teams had to drill through thick slabs of concrete, constantly interrupted by aftershocks and the looming risk of secondary collapse. Sometimes they heard faint tapping beneath the debris. Other times, weak voices cried for help, then went silent. In total, 96 people died in Bangkok, nearly all of them construction workers. Among the survivors pulled from the ruins, none could forget the darkness, the suffocating air, or the fading sounds of others losing breath. One survivor, named Anuwat, said, "I thought I would die there, but when I heard the search dog barking above me, I knew I couldn't give up." Meanwhile, in Myanmar, the nightmare was even more chaotic. Hospitals in Mandalay and Naypyidaw were overwhelmed. Victims lay scattered in courtyards. Not enough beds, not enough blood. Local TV stations went off air. Cell towers collapsed. People couldn't call loved ones. Many wandered from ruin to ruin, searching for familiar faces. At one school, more than 130 children were believed to have died when the roof caved in during a math lesson. Parents stood silent, clutching photos of their children in front of rubble. The United Nations called it Myanmar's worst earthquake in over a century, not just for the death toll, but for the sheer scale of destruction and near impossible recovery. Villages were left with no power, no clean water, and no roads. The country's already fragile rescue system was buried, literally. A village head in the Sagaing region said, "We have nothing left. No tents, no medicine. We only have each other." The earthquake was also felt in northeastern India and southwestern China. In Manipur, India, hospital windows shattered. Part of Imphal Airport's wall cracked. In Yunnan Province, China, more than 40 schools were ordered to evacuate. There was no major damage, but residents everywhere stayed up all night in fear.
International news agencies, including the
After the disaster, international aid agencies began arriving in Myanmar. But the conditions made their work nearly impossible. Roads were blocked, bridges had collapsed, small helicopters dropped food to isolated villages. But as winds picked up and aftershocks continued, many flights were grounded. Hunger began to spread. In Mandalay, an empty field was turned into a mass cremation site. The fires burned day and night. No funerals, no names, only numbers taped to plastic body bags. A monk sitting beside the flames said, "We pray for their souls because we can do nothing else." Amid the horror, there were miracles. A 6-year-old girl was found alive after 73 hours trapped beneath a collapsed house in Naypyidaw. She was protected by a pillow and her school desk. Both saved her life. Police carried her out to applause. An elderly man survived under a toppled bus thanks to an air pocket. Some families, thinking their children had died, heard faint voices from behind cracked concrete walls. But for thousands of others, miracles never came. Police, soldiers, civilians, they all dug with bare hands, shovels, saws. But sometimes they had to stop when the cries for help grew too faint to trace. Time wasn't on their side. Officials in Myanmar estimated initial damages to exceed $3.5 billion. But that number doesn't reflect the emotional wreckage of a shattered nation. No one dared sleep indoors, even in homes that were still standing. People set up tents on roadsides, in soccer fields, on hillsides. Every unfamiliar sound made them hold their breath. 6 days after the quake, Thailand officially ended the search operation in Bangkok. In a press briefing, the rescue commander said, "We've done all we can. Now Bangkok must begin to heal." But for those who lost loved ones, healing isn't so simple. One woman named Rachada, who lost her husband in the collapse, comes to the site every morning to light incense. On the cracked concrete, she places a framed photo. She doesn't cry, she doesn't speak. She just stands and looks. When asked why, she replies, "I'm here so he's not alone." The disaster has passed, but its echoes remain in every shattered brick, in every photo pinned to the walls of relief tents, in every sleepless night of the survivors. Millions still ask, why here? But perhaps the bigger question for the rest of the world is, if this happened to your city, would you be ready?